Good evening and welcome to the Vintner's Vision here live on CentralCoastLive.com. My name is Pepper Daniels, your host and program director of the only Central Coast wine radio station, the Krush 92.5. Tonight we have a very special show lined up for you. As usual, we've got a little bit of wine and a little bit of food. We're going to do some food pairings for you. Our winery partners tonight, Janell Dusi from J.Dusi Wines. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And just to the right of Janelle is Billy Grant. We're going to call him the Paso Zin Pimp.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We'll explain what the Paso Zin Pimp means a little bit later on in the show. And our food and restaurant partner here is Chef Jody Storsteen from Berry Hill Bistro in Paso, Robles. Welcome.
Cheers.
Well, Billy, tell us about your background in the wine business here. You've been a grower, you've been a winemaker, buyer, seller, all kinds of angles.
I never really much a winemaker. Definitely a cellar rat for my partner and good friend Christian Tiji at Four Vines Winery, which we built together over a series of years. And it's kind of taken off on a whole new journey. It got quite large, and it left.
Yeah,
but
it's one of the most famous ones around.
Well, we had a lot of good times. Christian's passion was Zinfandel, though, and when Chris was involved with Zinfandel, he started to source fruit from the Dusi Ranch, which is how that relationship with the family came about. He wanted to make Old Vine Zinfandel from different areas around the state. He went to Amador County, where we found the very oldest Zinfandel grapes we had access to. There's vineyards up there that date back into the 1850s and 1860s. Probably one of the most famous is the original Ground Pear vineyard, which is now called the 1869.
Wow.
The original year that was planted. And you can get a good representation of that particular one from Scott Harvey Wines, who's definitely one of the top guys.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he makes it up in Napa. But so he wanted to do it from different places, and so he got me hook, line, and sinker. He took me into the vineyards. I left a business in San Francisco, and I was itching to get in it. I needed to find a way to lessen the expense of my wine habit, actually, was one reason. And getting involved with making it seemed to be able to do that. So I jumped in with Christian, and we just kind of never looked back. And we were bringing Zinfandel. By the time, up to 2 years ago, we were probably sourcing from 25 different farmers around the state, different Zinfandel.
Yeah.
The Zin grows in a lot of terroirs in California. It's a pretty adaptive grape. Mm-hmm. Might be more adaptive when you look at it from that perspective than a lot of other grapes in the state. Mm-hmm. Where it might grow the best, it's difficult to say because from Russian River and all the way out to Amador County up in the foothills, all the way down to here, you can get amazing Zinfandel.
Yeah, you really can, and it's the fourth. I read it's the fourth most planted grape in our Paso Robles wine region. So, I mean, there's more Cab. I wrote down there's more Cab, there's more Merlot, and a little bit more Syrah, but then Zinfandel is the one.
A lot of people, when you travel, and what I spent, of course, 6 years doing was traveling across every corner of the United States, pimping Zin. That's they come. Hence they were giving me the Zin Pimp.
The Paso Zin Pimp.
And I was, we were, people's perception was there's a lot more Zin here because we have a Zin Fest and the heritage of Zinfandel and so on and so forth. And it is astonishing that it surprises people when they know just how few acres are actually planted to Zinfandel.
Yeah.
It's a fairly difficult grape to come by in this town right now. Mm-hmm. When people are trying to get into Zin and they come here from out of town and they want to buy Zin and they're visiting vineyards and they're talking to farmers. Her dad gets a lot of calls. And he says no.
We're mainly in the business of being the farmers of the vineyard.
Right.
We farm the land, grow the grapes, and sell to other wineries.
Right.
Mostly local. Four Vines and Cypher are a big. We sell a lot to them, so they write Dusi Vineyard designation on their bottles. We've been doing that since the 20s.
Yeah.
Growing, being the farmers of the land, and so had a winery called Dusi Winery open up in the 50s. My uncle Benito was the winemaker and had a cellar door for a couple years and then closed it. So I'm the first person since the late 50s to bring back a family member making Dusi Zin.
I was going to ask you about that.
But we do still sell about 90% of our Zinfandel to other wineries here in the area.
Excellent.
And I take about 10% of the grapes off the ranch to make the J.Dusi wines lineup.
The ones that you want, which we're going to get into in just a moment. But let's turn to our restaurant partner this week and talk to Chef Jody here from Berry Hill Bistro. First, tell us a little bit about yourself as a chef. What lit the fire or the passion to get into food for you?
Well, actually, I think it came from my family. My great-grandmother came from Norway. She was a great baker, great cook, and it kind of just passed down through the generations. Yeah. My grandmother during the Depression made pies and sold, and chickens, and did all kinds of things during the Depression to support the family. And she just passed on her homemade breads and homemade food, and they're all from the Midwest, North Dakota. And so when I decided to open the restaurant here in Paso Robles, I kind of wanted to stay with a comfort style food with a more modern flair.
Right.
So it's not entirely chef driven, it's more home style cooking.
Yeah, which is kind of a unique twist here, because in California everything's lighter, fresher, it's very trendy in the organic and,
And some of our stuff is, I try to have salads that are seasonal and, change up my menu once in a while so we don't all get bored with it. And try different things all the time. I like food trends myself, but definitely we have modern comfort food is the best way I can describe our menu.
Excellent.
It's definitely a bistro. It's loud, it's small, it's very comfortable to come in.
Well, let's talk about that. It's right downtown Paso.
Yes.
And for those of you watching from far away or not familiar with the downtown Paso region, it's becoming a foodie wine sort of mecca down there. And people are coming from all over to come to Paso.
I was very lucky to get my foot in the door before that all kind of boomed. I waited a couple years. I had a little business in Cambria. And I waited a couple years until something opened up around our little Central Park, which is, I think, where all the foodies and all the wines and everything is starting to pop up.
It's the jewel now.
Love it. Paso Robles has been very, very good to me. I have a lot of locals, but I also have a lot of people that just pop in because they're right there on the main walkway.
Exactly. And let's talk about the beginning of the restaurant was to use a bad pun, a little shaky.
It was a shaky beginning.
Yes, tell us about the shaky beginning.
Well, we opened 10 days before Paso Robles' famous earthquake of 2003.
Right.
We opened in December, and of course that was kind of a tragedy. We lost everything, but fortunately for myself and our neighbors, we had no loss of life. So really in the theme of things, we were lucky.
Absolutely.
We were closed for a few weeks after only being open for 10 days. So it was a difficult beginning. But once we got the structural engineers in there and we got the doors back open, Paso Robles was very receptive, as was the county, to be honest. I mean, people knew we were struggling and brand new. And so a lot of my friends and neighbors from Cambria came over, and we had a lot of great support, so it was wonderful.
The earthquake in 2003 tore up a lot of stuff in downtown Paso Robles, and what has come out of that over the last 8 years now has just been a rebirth of all of this. The restaurants, a lot of wineries have moved their tasting rooms down there. To have walk-in places.
To walk around on a Friday or Saturday night on the boulevard around the park is just amazing. Sometimes I look and I don't feel like I'm in Paso Robles because I've been in the county, in Cambria for 30 plus years. I moved over here about 12 years ago, and it's just so different.
It's vibrant, it's alive.
Yes, not that it wasn't wonderful before. It was a small farming community, and I loved it back then too, but now it's very trendy and fun.
Yeah, it's vibrant, it's alive,
And at 9 o'clock to have people walking around, and 10 o'clock having people walking around, you're like, wow, it used to roll up at 7:30, be no one walking around.
Yeah, and you guys remember that, being natives to
there
Paso.
wasn't that many places to go out, and we didn't go out a lot.
Yeah, tell us something. And now, Berry Hill Bistro. I wanted to ask you specifically about the idea of a bistro. Now, when I think, this is wrong on my part, I think of a bistro, I think of maybe a sandwich shop, a small little place, but you have a full-on, I saw steaks and fish and all kinds of everything on the menu.
Well, we started much smaller. We started with paninis and salads, and that was my idea to start. And then we just had a few specials every night that involved our halibut with our macadamia crust, with the light garlic cream sauce, and the flat iron steaks with, blue cheese crumbles and a gorgonzola sauce. And then we were going to switch it around. And what ended up happening is people would come in and say, can we have that tonight? Can we have this tonight? So I ended up putting it on the menu. So then we ended up having a lunch menu and a dinner menu. Yep. But I do switch things around. And you can just come in at night and get a hamburger if you want, or a panini. And you can just come in and get a sandwich, or if you feel like it, we have small plates for people who just want to have a small bite before they go see a movie, which is just 2 doors down from us.
Right.
And then, of course, there's people that want to have a full meal. So
sure. And you guys
try to get it for everybody. That's what we're trying to do.
That's great.
And all those great frites you have.
Oh, of course. Yes, we're kind of known for our French fries, which we call frites, and the production of those is. And then we serve, we make them from, I don't grow the potatoes, but we make them from as scratch as we can. And then we serve them with 3 different dipping sauce. So, they're very good.